Hello, everyone. Welcome to live demo day 3 of session 2. It is a great day here in the Hudson Valley, and we have our Camp Bulliwa team, Rah Rah Bulliwa, at the doing a live demo for us today. But before we get to that, how's everyone doing so far? Can I see some thumbs up? Everyone doing their homework for their merit badges, right? Especially those citizenship in the world guys, right? All right, good. It's good to see everyone. What we're going to do now is I'm going to turn it over to Kim and Dan at Camp Bulliwa. Take it away.
Oh, hi. I'm not Dan, I'm Kim. How are you? I'm here from beautiful Camp Bulliwa in New York, and I'm here with Dan also, and we're here to show you a couple different things. Last night, I had some help, but we started to build a shelter, and I think that is what we are going to start off with. So we did a tripod shelter, and a little bit I'm going to show you the lashing, the knot in the lashing that I did for the top of it to hold it together. So let's take a tour. It is by far not complete. However, the shelter that you would have in the summer versus the winter is two different things. So again, let me show them the lashings again.
Yeah.
So we have some lashings in here that I'm going to show you on a much smaller scale. So it is secure. It's very secure in here. Besides the couple leaves that fell. Okay. We have lots of branches, and I'm going to add some more branches to it. I found some dried leaves to add to it. If I really needed shelter, I would get green leaves, green branches to add, but I really did not want to cut anything off a tree for this demonstration. During the summer, we really just want to give most protection on the top. We want a lot of airflow on the bottom. During the winter months, we definitely want to enclose this all up. So during the winter months, we might make this a lot lower to the ground too. We were going more for impressive here and not keeping you warm. I brought my sleeping pad from home. I didn't bring my my sleeping bag, but I think you got the idea that I can definitely take a nap out here after my lunchtime today. I don't need my sleeping bag. So let me get some more branches and add to this. So you definitely need it, lots of assorted sizes. Definitely when you get some branches with all the Y's in them, they're really good because it becomes easier to nest in some other branches. So this could be a really cool project for you to do at home in your yard. Doesn't have to be so grand. You can definitely make it a lot smaller. It can be a play fort. You can bring, okay, so I know you older scouts, I know I saw some teddy bears and some unicorns that you were doing CPR on. So you can bring those guys out here and you can make a shelter for them. So again, it doesn't need to be so grand. You can build something smaller. So next I'm going to show you the knot and the lashing that I did to secure the top. So we're going to go back over to our small porch area. So we started with the clove hitch. So just to show you, the tripod had three longest branches. Okay, and I tied my paracord, my rope, to one of them. And I use the clove hitch to do that. Okay, so just bear with me. Knots is definitely not my strong suit, but it is not a hard knot at all. So here is one already tied. So I'm going to tie it next to it. Okay, so we're just going to loop the rope over and come back and make a simple X. Okay, so all I did was loop it over, and I'm going to come back over. Okay, so I have my X, I'm coming back over. So I'm going to go under in the middle. Does that look right, Dan?
Tighten it up a little.
Okay, and now I'm just tightening it. I moved it together a little bit, and that's it. It is tight. Okay, very simple. So that is how I anchored it. So when you got, when the BSA scouts are making their sleds for like the Klondike or whatever you may call your event, that is how you are going to start your lashings. Okay, now for the tripod on a much smaller scale here. We started with the clove hitch, and then, I'm sorry, remind me what the weave one was called.
The tripod lashing?
The tripod lashing. Okay, that makes complete sense. Let me get a new piece here. Okay, so I'm going to do the clove hitch on one of these. Sorry, bear with me 1 second. I told you knots were not my strong suit, but I am trying. And that is what matters. Did I get that right, Dan? I don't think so. I'm going to try again. Okay, I have my X. Let me just get a little bit more of a tail. Sorry. I have my X. I'm coming up and I'm going through. I got it. Okay, I have it. Again, if you don't get it the first time, you try again. You need to practice. Okay, and then we're going to put all three together. So even though our teepee style shelter is standing, we have to start it on the ground. Okay. Now there's a weaving thing. So we're going to weave it many, many times. I'm probably only going to be able to do it a few here, but what do you think we did it 15 times on this large TP shelter we did? Okay, so we're going to go up, around. I'm going to move this down just for demonstration purposes. Sorry, bear with me one moment. I want to weave on the top. So up, or I'm sorry, under, over, and then back. Over, under. And we're just going to keep on going. And it's a weave. So the tripod weave. Is that coming through okay? So on those larger staves there, not going to be so easy, quite as easy, because you're going to have to keep on pulling your rope or your paracord through. So you're going to just keep on going and keep on pulling it tight. Okay. So again, on that size, you're probably going to do this probably up to 15 times. I'm going to stop here because I have this on a very small scale. To start finishing it off, Dan, remind me what this is called.
So this is frapping. It's basically where you take your lashings and kind of wrap around the lashings themselves.
Okay, so I'm going to do it on this side. And then I am going to jump over to the other side. Okay, and then on the actual one, on the life-size one, you're going to want to really pull and get this really tight. Okay, because this is your main structure. You want it sound. And you will be amazed how much it will tighten up on the large one. So I'm going to wrap on this side. I think it's hung up on something. Okay. Then it would get tied off. But you would get a very sound structure here. This would be appropriate for my rubber duck. I think that's about, my rubber duck would be good for that. So any questions on that so far?
All right, if anyone has any questions, you can send them to me in the chat. But as we're talking, does anyone have any questions? Nope, not yet, Kim.
Okay. Okay, so next, I brought my tent from home. I thought I would set that up and give you a tour of my tent. So this is a tent that I had taken backpacking, like on a 6-day backpacking trip in the Adirondacks with my younger son. So I believe it's a 2-person tent. So myself, and then at the time my son was 10, we stayed in that tent together for 6 nights. So it was just big enough for the 2 of us, but not big enough for our packs. So you might want to know what we did with our packs. We had, since I was out for 6 nights and I had no access, my phone had no signal. So besides just seeing people, I really didn't know what the weather reports were or anything. I had put the rain covers on our packs every night as a precaution to keep our packs dry. So whether it rains or not, you always have, well, most of the time you have morning dew, so that kept our packs dry. So let me get my tent out and I will give you a tour of that.
All right. Well, while you're doing that, Kim, let me ask some questions for you guys. I actually got a question here in the chat that I can answer. So what would you do if you're making a winter hut? So I want you guys to chat with me here. Send me a chat. What do you think that we can do in the winter time, right? For making a suitable shelter in the winter. Yeah, make it out of snow. Sure, everyone has seen an igloo before, right? You know, you'd be surprised at how warm you can be inside that igloo or inside of just a hole in the snow. It's, you know, you're in there. Yep, you insulate it, and your body heat just gives off the heat that you need to have you know, to be able to be okay. And it's pretty cool. I have actually slept in an igloo. When I was a scout, I won Klondike Derby. I stayed overnight at Camp Trimount up in the Catskills, and I built an igloo with my patrol, a pretty big one. And we all, a couple of us actually slept in it, and it was really, really cool. You know, some other things you can do with a shelter. Yeah, that's a good example is bringing a blanket. So before we move on, it looks like Kim wants to say something. Go ahead, Kim.
Oh, no, I'm just waiting.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so how does snow make warmth? Well, actually, the snow isn't what's making it warm. It's it insulates you, and the body heat that you give out, because we're all warm-blooded, right? We all give out body heat. That is what makes it warm inside your shelter. And oh, another scout suggested, that's a good point. If you have a tarp, you can use a tarp to put over it as your roof too. All right, so that looks like that's it for the questions we have so far, Kim.
No.
Okay, so before I really got too far on setting up my tent, I just took it out of its bag, and I just wanted to show you that my ground cloth was all put together back very neatly. My tent was put back very neatly. My rain fly is wrapped up with my tent. My poles are here. I got my stakes, and haven't had this one set up in a little bit, but I believe these are to anchor it down with the stakes. Okay, so first I'm gonna we put down the ground cloth. So so it's not gonna rain tonight. There's no rain in the forecast. Do I need to put down my ground cloth? What do you think? So the answer is yes, because A, scouts are always prepared, and B, the ground can be damp anyway, so moisture from the ground can come up and make your tent damp. And in the morning, there's always a good chance of having morning dew. Any other comments?
Nope, we're good. Everyone said yes. Yep.
The size of your ground cloth should be the same size as your tent. You don't want it any bigger, because if it's larger and it does rain, the rainwater will collect on the edge of your tarp and actually go under your tent. So again, you want it the same size. And this is just some thick plastic. Okay, I've seen, and I've even used in the past the tarp, but the tarp is just bigger. It doesn't fold down as nice. It's too much in your pack. So something like this, I can get to fit into into my tent. Okay. I don't think my tent is this big. It's been a while since I've set up this tent because it's on the smaller side. So you're going to separate your tent and your rain fly. You're going to figure out where the front of your tent is. You want to put your door in the front. You can easily turn your tent around, but why don't you just figure out where your door is first. Also, when we get to the rainflies usually have a front and back. Probably want to figure out what the front is first before you start putting it on your tent. Okay. So just laying it out nice. Mine is completely mesh on the top. Some are not full mesh on the top. I recommend that when you put yours away, you zip up all the windows and stuff in case you're setting it up in the rain. You're not letting water into your tent. Usually tents have some type of mesh. But they're not all of them are complete mess like this. Okay, next I'm going to get my poles and set them up. I believe I have 3 poles. I have 1 for the rain tarp and 2 for the tent. I might have a small issue here. Sometimes you have to feed it through a channel. This one I am just clipping. Please notice that I'm trying not to step on my tent. My shoes are relatively clean, but if I was hiking all day, most likely my shoes would not be. Now I was not prepared. I have not had this tent open in a little bit. I'm pretty sure I was the last person who used it because I know my son would not have it rolled up so nicely. So my second set of poles does not have the string going through them. So I am going to piece them together anyway. I'm going to mimic what I have here. Can you guys hear the geese behind us in the lake? What I am looking for is the ends. There's specific ends that go at the end of the tent in the grommets. I'm going to make sure that I have those at the end. Sorry, Dan. And I'm going to clip it together. And then I'm going to start putting it in the grommet at the end of the tent. You can do this by yourself. You can do it with a partner. Okay, so two things. I believe that my ground cloth is just on the wrong side. So if I turned it around or turned the tent around, they would match sizes. Next thing, at this point, I would stake the tent down. Before I did all this, I would make sure I had a really nice area with no rocks that was relatively flat. Okay, so again, like I had said, this is almost all mess. Very nice for airing out. Very nice for door. Has a canopy for some things. I have like this little lantern that I like to hang up on the top of my tent for sleeping. And you can see it is not super big. One might say this is a one-person tent, one person with its gear. Again, I was backpacking, so we were trying to carry light. It was two people with no gear in here. So let me get the rain fly and let's take a look at that. So like I said, the rain flies usually have a front and a back. This is going to be my clue that it's the front right here because it has the zipper. Okay. Not all of them are going to have the zippers on the front, but there should be some type of clue that there is a front. All rain flies look different. All tents look different. Okay, there's no right or wrong. This happens to be a very big rain fly, but I'm going to show you. So this one happens to have buckles. Okay, and then there's buckles at the bottom of my tent here. So I'm gonna clip them in. But it's very floppy here in the front, right? How am I supposed to get in? There's actual extra stakes, and we're gonna stake it out here, which I can't stake it on the wood porch. Okay. And then when I open it, there's extra space. So if I remove this one here, so there's not a lot of space in this tent. So what am I going to do with my muddy shoes from the day? What if it rains? What am I going to do with my muddy shoes? So I can leave my shoes right outside here. I can leave a little bit of gear right outside here, and it is protected by the rain gear. So it is giving me some added protection outside of the tent. So it's a decent amount of room, and that is why this tarp, why the ground cloth is cut a little funky too, although I still have it positioned wrong. Okay. Does anyone have a question about this tent or tents in general?
All right, if anyone has any questions, Simon asked, is it comfortable in there?
Oh, it's very cozy. Like I said, I did a trip 6 days out in off the grid in it.
When were tents invented? Do you know that, Kim?
I do not. Do you know, John?
Probably a long time ago. But we've had tents for a long time, long time ago. But of course, the technology for tents has changed so much over the last 50 to 60 years. I mean, if you think about, some of the tents a lot of troops grow up with, there's those A-frame tents and things like that. And nowadays, especially those serious backpackers, it's all about how much your tent weighs. So you can get a tent, as low, as low as I think a pound. And oh boy, Andrew Check, my scouting hero, he first patented in 1856. Thank you, Andrew. Look at that. Did you just know that off the top of your head, Andrew? That's crazy.
So, John, I would just like to add on to the tents. Dan here. Hello, everyone. So remember, they were patented in the 1800s, but Native Americans and nomadic tribes have been using some form of tents for years, probably since BC, very, very long time ago in history. Now, the modern day tent, yes, maybe around the 1800s is when they were patented, but tents have been a thing for a very long time.
There you go. All right. Yep. That's pretty much it for tent questions.
Are there any more questions on the shelter? Because I know we moved away from that pretty quickly.
Well, actually, what I would love to do is ask the scouts here a couple questions. What are some other things you can do to? What do you think are some other things you can do to build a shelter? So Kim and Dan, they have a great example over there about how to build it out of a tripod. What do you think are some other things that you can do to build the shelter if you're stuck out in the wilderness? Type it in the chat. And while you guys are doing that, I got a question here. Is it better than a tent? What's better, a tent or a shelter? Well, I'll tell you that a tent is more ideal, right? It's definitely going to be waterproof, and you don't have to deal with the bugs in the wood and all that stuff. But yeah, so a couple ones to here. Yeah, yep, you're right that if you see a big tree that's fallen over, you can build a shelter out of that. You can lean up sticks against a rock and build a type of a lean-to, right? So you have your surface here. You can put your sticks here, and you can sleep underneath it. You can use a tarp, but you want to put lots of leaves and branches. You can also use to keep yourself safe from any of the weather that might happen. Under a pine tree, yeah, okay. Dan, is there anything else? Dan and Kim, any other things we can add for shelters and on different types of shelters?
I have something real quick, so let me just turn the camera around. So, we showed you the tent. We showed you a makeshift shelter you can build in the woods. A lot of trails also have lean-tos that are pre-established on them. The Appalachian Trail, a lot of hikers going up and down. They stay in the pre-built shelters, the lean-tos there, which are basically, it's a building with 3 walls and 1 open wall, and you throw your sleeping bag right inside, and you got the cover above you to protect you from the elements. So that's somewhere else you can stay when camping. Now, you're not able to move those. They're pre-established, but that is another possible shelter.
I have a question here that either one of you guys can answer. How can you tell if you find a cave? A lot of people are saying cave, go sleep in a cave. But how can you tell if there's a bear or a wolf inside, or even a cheese moose? What would you do? How can you tell that?
I think that you should stay away from caves. That does not seem like a safe scenario. And, we need to be respectful to nature.
Yeah, and also, and someone else put a good point here. You can also tell if animals live by any kind of a scat around the area, right, or footprints, right? You want to be mindful of that. All right, Kim and Dan, do you have anything else to add?
No.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today for how to make a shelter live demo. And big round of applause to to Kim at Bullowa. Thank you, Kim. Thank you so much. And also to Dan, thank you. And we will see you guys later at 3 p.m. for the Strawberry DNA.